computer. There we go.
Okay.
Woo. Okay, I would like to thank everybody for joining me here with episode 3 of Cup of Gratitude with my guest, Annie Wagoner. For those who don't know me, I'm Lisa Berman. I am a life coach, working on a book about journaling. I host my Cup of Gratitude once a month, and that when it happens really varies depending on my guest and their availability. So I'm so excited to have Annie here. I can be found on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Lisa Berman Life Coach, an Instagram page, Saturday Sunrise, and I have a website, Lisa Berman Life Coach.com. I think. So anyways, so I really work with empowering women, helping women find greater joy, balancing the responsibilities of work, family, life, stress, all of those pieces, because we all navigate lots of those pieces at different times. So this has kind of been my baby. Well, it's only the 3rd session. So anyways, this is my exciting baby this year, I guess. Annie, you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you, Lisa. And I am so excited to be on this with you. Gratitude is one of my absolute favorite topics. So thank you. I'm Annie Wagoner. I'm first and foremost a mom. I have 2 amazing kids. They're 14 and 11, not so little anymore. And their coming into my life really pushed and nudged me to want to create a business, which is now entitled Core Nourishment. Firstly, to support other moms around coming back home to themselves and remembering who they are aside from being a mom. So I'm a holistic health coach. I am a yoga and mindfulness teacher. I also am a certified personal trainer and a Reiki master. And I really meet each of my clients, moms and women, not just moms now, wherever they're at. And I love it because I get to customize my programming for each individual, really based on what they're truly craving and needing. Some want just personal training, some want just nutrition and meal planning, and then many want like a combination of both. So COVID really pushed me. I used to just be like, in person was my jam. I love connecting energetically with people in person. And COVID, the pandemic, I feel like really helped me launch some more virtual programming so that I could continue to support women and moms all over and even virtually. So I also, over the last year, just like Lisa, created this baby. I started what's called the Wellness Portal for Moms, and it's basically a virtual village. I offer virtual circuit workouts via Zoom, yoga classes, mindfulness and meditation, and then recipes, and also opportunity for us to connect. And then any mom who joins also receives discounted one-on-one sessions with me. So I'm still really kind of nurturing that and growing and learning, always learning. And it's just an honor to be able to connect, because that's just so important. Connection is so healing for all of us. So thank you, Lisa.
Oh, I'm excited. It was really kind of a funny way that it happened. I had been kind of thinking about who my next guest was going to be, and Annie was in the short list of people. And I went in. So she lives in Dover. I live in Hampton. We ended up being in a coffee shop that, well, is closer to me than it is to her. But anyways, we went in and there she was, and I was like, oh, I've been wanting to reach out to you, but anyway, so it was, I said, there we go. Now I know my answer. And so it was just one of those wonderful serendipitous moments of kind of connection. So, so there we go. We did our introductions. I've just, so I think, Annie, as we kind of, I know you say gratitude is kind of one of those really important pieces for you. And so I think one of the questions that I have kind of historically ask my guess is kind of if there has been a situation in their life that kind of really drove them to the use of gratitude, or where the use of gratitude really kind of helped pull them out of a difficult, challenging time. And so I don't know all your stories. I've known the stories from my guests, so
Mhm.
I can't even lead on that, Annie. I know that it speaks to you, and so I think it's really helpful if guests kind of can hear how gratitude has kind of helped you overcome.
Yes, no, I love that question, Lisa. Absolutely powerful. And I mean, what comes to mind is right before I birthed Core Nourishment, when my kids were 4 and 1, I was going through definitely just the most challenging, traumatic time in my life. My kid's dad and I were really struggling. He was suffering from major anxiety and depression to the point where I just felt so lost, and I felt like I had abandoned myself in order to just be present for my 4-year old and 1-year old. I was breastfeeding, I was up every night. We had 2 dogs. I was trying to care for him. And I was scared. I was lost. And I remember just having like a wake up call and realizing, I mean, we were really, really trying to work on things. And he just um, he was just so hurt inside, and was just dealing with so much pain that um, I realized, okay, I had to come back to nourishing myself and asking for support, which I wasn't very good at. I was definitely a super caregiver, and very good at giving, but really struggled to ask for help and receive. And That's when I really grounded back into my own yoga practice. I'd already been teaching for a little while, but I really came back to like the simplest things. I was also working with a therapist at the time, and it was remembering my breaths, remembering, just hand on heart, and which to this day I was going to share is my sacred like ritual in the morning before I even get out of bed. I literally, because my nature is fiery and like go go go, and um, and don't launch into the day. And I've learned to just before I get out of bed, take 5 minutes and place my hand on my body and just thank it for all that it does. And the simple practice of like gratitude for my heart, for my compassion, um, and all those things. That's my ritual that I've kept since that time. And I really think it was regrounding in like the compassion that I pour out to my kids, to Brian at that time, and it was learning how to love myself in all the feelings. So I don't know if this is making sense, but where I came back to was mindfulness of feeling and learning to feel, because I wasn't so good at that. I was like, I want to stay strong. I want to show up and be present for the kids. I want to give. I want to be joyful. But it wasn't being fair to myself, and wasn't allowing myself just to also feel absolutely exhausted, and to feel scared, and to feel sad and disappointed. And my harsh critic at that time was like, you're failing, you're like not, things are not looking like they should. And I, through just a simple mindfulness practice of
Mm.
thanking myself, thanking my heart for feeling, and recognizing, like pivoting it to, oh my gosh, like you're sad because you care so much. You're sad because you love so much. You're disappointed because you desire so much. And like I was able to just start to love and be grateful for all the feelings, all the various parts of me that were showing up. Um, and it didn't happen overnight, but it was like this slow coming back home to myself in a more soft, loving way, with gratitude, and being grateful for, even though it felt so uncomfortable, this time period, because um, because it brought me to my greater purpose. And I think, I'm still practicing every day, this allowance of feeling and this self-compassion. But that experience kind of launched me to birth core nourishment. I became a holistic health coach, and then it kind of helped propel me on my path. And there's so much healing that ended up happening between me and the kid's dad. We are no longer together, but we live a mile apart, and we are like rock solid co-parents and are in each other's lives very much, and in such a beautiful healing way. And I think that it's allowed both of us to show up with more presence as parents as well. So yeah, that's a little backstory.
And I think that's so beautiful. Just kind of, I know for me, kind of that, you put your hand on your heart, it really has such it causes you to just slow down and take a breath and be present, and then to kind of add in that a mindful gratitude for being here, for being present, is just, I love that. Just kind of, because I know how powerful it is to just kind of hand on your heart. So
yeah, the energy, the warmth, I always come back to like the softening that can happen. I think our heart space is such a shielded place for many of us, like it's kind of where we guard and we protect, but to like allow ourselves to soften and then open. And then there's this flowing energy that can happen between whoever we're with, so yeah. And it calms the nervous system like really automatically. Does. So yeah.
That's so beautiful. And I think what I really love about connecting with guests through the Cup of Gratitude is hearing about the different practices. And that's really just, I love that one. And I have not heard of that as a practice kind of first thing in the morning, I think I hear of it kind of in the breathing, but not in kind of as a gratitude practice. So that's really kind of a neat takeaway.
Yeah.
Are there other maybe gratitude practices that you kind of use? Even, I know that you do yoga and meditation, and certainly meditation can have its, depending on your meditation, can have its gratitude elements. But I'm just kind of curious, even if there's gratitude practices that you've used that were really helpful, because I know for me right now, like I have had gratitude practices that I used, that I don't use. Some I go back to. Anything kind of strike your fancy, Annie, in terms of gratitude, other gratitude practices?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. One of my favorites that I started to practice with my kids starting when they were little, in my like, schooling and studying of nutrition and psychology of eating and our relationship to food and our bodies, I was really starting to learn about, I'll note there's one of my favorite all-time books is called The Slow Down Diet, and it's by Mark David. It's kind of funny, two first names, but M-A-R-C David. And he's the founder of the Psychology of Eating Institute out in Boulder, Colorado. And for me personally, on my own personal journey with my relationship with food and my body, it was life-changing for me. And then it's one of my favorite books to explore and talk about with my clients. And one of the things he says is that he calls gratitude vitamin G. So I love that because it is, along with oxygen in our breath, it's like those are two essential ingredients for our bodies, but we don't necessarily think of them as that. So one of the practices after reading that book that I started to do with my kids is every time I have them and we're sitting down at a meal, which as they've gotten older and all their activities, sometimes it's hard to ground. But whenever we do, before we eat, we pause and we take 3 deep breaths, because breathing often just allows us to land in the present, and helps to regulate our nervous system. And then we each share one thing we're grateful for. And one of my favorite, I guess over the years, favorite things is like, I mean, when they were little, I mean, some of the things they said, it was like, oh my gosh, like, I'm so grateful. Well, just goofy things, they would make jokes like, I'm grateful for farting. I'm grateful for my stuffed animal. And you're like, oh my gosh. But, I just allowed, as opposed to judge or being like, that's not right, or that's not good enough. It's just like, okay, I'm just gonna let this be, and then what's amazing is as I've gotten older, like they will often remind me, like, hey mom, we need to, we need to say what we're grateful for. Like it's really anchored in as a sacred practice for them. And it's now turned to things that like make me cry, like out of joy. Like they're like, I'm so grateful for my teacher for like all that she did, I'm so grateful, mom, for the hug you gave me when I needed it more than anything. And just these little things that, a 14 and 11-year-old, I don't always expect to come out of them, but it's really become such a beautiful practice. And, do I wish we could do it more often? Yes. And I'm just so glad that it's anchored in them and it's something that they remember and come back to. And then their stepdad, it's something, he's been in our lives now for 4.5 years, and that, it's become just such a special family ritual. So I'm so grateful. There I go, using the word. So yeah. So that's the one thing, that the first thing that came to mind. And then the other thing, Lisa, that I feel like you would really resonate with is just my, like, I think about gratitude a lot. Like even again, when things don't feel necessarily comfortable or good, it's like one of my favorite phrases is, okay, this is happening for me, not to me. So even just the the curiosity and the question that I try to ground into when I'm in that space of being able to pause and be curious as opposed to reactive. It's like, okay, what can I learn from this? And will I, with my future self, be grateful for in this experience, even though it may feel so heavy. I mean, we could talk about this last year for everyone, right? Like there is just so much heaviness. And I imagine each one of us here can now reflect back and see the hidden blessings and perhaps the gifts that did show up because of what we all experienced. So that's not a specific practice, but it's just a lens that I try to ground back to.
And I love the phrase, this is happening for me, not to me, because I think that's kind of, it shifts your frame of it so that you are curious about kind of what are the takeaways, what are the silver linings. And I've always been kind of, right, what are the silver linings in whatever the difficulty? And so, I mean, from when I was a teenager, I know that was kind of my thought process, what I mean? And so I think that this is happening for me, and being curious about that easily lends to that. What am I grateful for? So
yeah.
And I want to share, because I know a couple people here were with me on the last one with Randy, where he talked about, I think it was him, gratitude kind of in anticipation of things. And so I think it was Randy who talked about that. Anyways, maybe it was Mary. Patty, do you remember?
Wasn't with one with Randy, and I don't remember Mary saying that. So maybe
Randy. So you think it was Randy? Yeah. Talking about kind of the anticipatory gratitude of like, I'm grateful for. I just kind of have gone back to it. So I think that I'm grateful for like the day ahead and the ease and peace that I feel in the day, or things along those lines. And so I've kind of been trying to get into that one. And and I know I've heard it before, but it has been really kind of one of those, like, a way of setting the tone. So for me lately, my gratitude practice has kind of changed. I used to fill a page with all the things that I was grateful for, just, you know, all of the abundance, whether it's the heat, the electricity. The electricity has stayed on. We have power,
I
we have
know.
Wi-Fi, we're doing this. There's no big booms. I am right. Um, and so I do a little bit of that. So right now, my practice looks like kind of identifying 3 things that I'm grateful for from the day before, because I do it in the morning, and really kind of being detailed about it. So just adding detail of why, what the real blessing in it is, kind of how it supports me or how it supports the family. And then I move on to 3 things that I'm grateful for about the day ahead, or it could be the week ahead, you know, kind of looking forward to, and I'm trying to think of kind of one of the recent ones. I probably did one about today, grateful that Annie's joining me and that, you know, we will have a handful of people joining us to really kind of delve into kind of a really sacred and uplifting space that just, I know when I get to do these, I just feel kind of centered and kind of come back to who I am. And, you know, it's an opportunity to kind of think about what's important. And so, so it's always fun to talk about gratitude practices. I'm kind of curious, does anybody on here have a gratitude practice that they find really supports them or that they want to share? Anybody? No?
Well, I know this is kind of simple, but lately with so many more people on the road, people are traveling, and there's been a multitude of, really serious car crashes. So I've done this for a while that, if I'm especially driving on Route 3 North or, 101 East or West, because it's 2 lanes of traffic in one direction, and you've got inattentive people. And, I just think it's, this kind of a higher level of risk now driving. So every time, and actually it was a dentist, and this is well over 20 years ago, who told me this, that, when you're in your car and before you start, you just picture your car just enrobed in like a blanket of flowers, roses, and that's kind of your shield. And then, so I think of it more like a force field. And then when I get to my destination, it's always, thank you for getting me here safely. Even today, I just went to Merrimack and back, and I do the same thing. So it's a little ritual, but I'm going to do what Annie said. I'm going to start making that physical connection with myself as well. I mean, because I am eternally grateful to get home safely without incident, because there's just craziness on the road. I think more on the roads now. So that's my little practice.
And
That's
that's
beautiful,
not a
Patty.
little, go ahead, Annie, what was that?
No, I just think that's so beautiful. I love imagery and vision, and I love I love that it was your dentist. I look at those like,
Yeah.
and that it's flowers. Like I love that. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you for sharing. And I love it because I agree that I, travel down to Haverhill more, and kind of I feel like there's more big trucks now than ever before. And it does have a feel very different than what it did pre-COVID. And so I think I know what I'll be doing before I head to Haverhill tomorrow morning.
Yeah. And I like imagery too, Annie. It just helps me. I'm sort of a, hands-on or eyes-on kind of learner, and that's what works for me, is to see things in my mind. So
Beautiful, very powerful.
Yeah, no, definitely. Does anybody have any questions for Annie? I think even if it's questions about the yoga, about meditation, about any of the pieces of her practice, or if you want to even understand more about her wellness portal, any question are open to having questions. So
And I realized I didn't share where people could find me. So if you don't have any questions right now, but you do think of something or just want to reach out, my website is Annie Wagoner, WAGO. There's a sneaky O in there, WAGONER.com. And then you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Core Nourishment.
I know I'm always like Annie Wagoner.
Yeah,
Is that how you
Wagon.
really say it? But that's how I spell it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Lisa?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Yes, go
I
ahead.
just was wondering, in general, what is the book Slow Down Diet about? It almost sounds like meditation, and I just wondered what the gist of the book was.
Great question. I realized I didn't really expand on that. So Mark David really addresses kind of the energy and the psychology behind our eating. And that was another layer of the gratitude I forgot to mention. So thank you for this question. So he talks about like slowing down. I mean, we live in like such a freaking fast-paced world, right? And I mean, I know there are times where I have to, like, I am eating on the go or in the car. That doesn't necessarily serve our bodies to its optimal way of feeling nourished and fueled. So he addresses it. He does a ton of research. So there's a lot of science behind it too, but he basically talks about the absolute importance of, as much as we can, slowing down. And that way, you know, when we slow down and our brain can actually register like, oh, I'm eating food right now. I'm drinking some water. It is then able to more optimally absorb the nutrients and actually digest and metabolize the nutrients properly. Because even if you're eating like the best things for your body, but you're on the go and you are multitasking, your body is going to struggle to really like obtain and retain the nutrients. And it might just, for some people's digestive system, it might just flush through. It might cause digestive challenges if they're constantly, you know, the cortisol levels are constantly high and they're revved up, their nervous systems. And, you know, there's some, especially women, our hormonal systems are super sensitive. And, you know, there's kind of all over the spectrum, but this practice of mindfulness. So it's really, the book is all layered about mindfulness, and he offers science-based research as well as tools to really help you start to just slow down with your food, with your body, and then also just that deeper listening and learn to more intuitively eat, as opposed to, I mean, it's also so overwhelming, all the, you should eat this, you should eat this, you shouldn't eat this. And he truly, you know, my belief, and he speaks to this a little bit, is that, you know, everybody's bio individual. And so what works for me is not necessarily going to work for you, Lisa, or you, Patty, or Jen. You know, it's learning to drop in and start to listen to the messages your body's trying to tell you. And maybe it has for years, but you just hadn't, you thought like, oh, this stomach thing, I've had it my whole life. It's just, you know, it's just part of me. But then you start to realize by slowing down, connecting with your food, that, oh my gosh, the dairy, like that's actually, that's when I have that, that's hurting my belly. Like, oh, okay. You know, and so you start to learn to listen and receive those messages. And then it also becomes less of this punishment and like, oh, like frustration and like, oh, thank you, body, for telling me this message. And you learn to have a little bit more compassion for yourself, and it's working together with your body as opposed to against it. So, yeah.
And what I love about that, just that awareness, is because you're right, like it's so easy to kind of go. And I know I can sit at my desk and eat lunch and work, or right, you wolf food down before you go off to do an activity with the kids, but when you kind of pause, take a lunch break, or sit at the kitchen table for dinner, that creates a calmer space that then kind of counteracts those higher cortisol levels. Whereas if I'm
Yeah.
eating and running and doing this and that, it just kind of keeps those cortisol levels elevated. But when we kind of can build in those practices of quieter times, it will help to regulate those cortisol levels. So
Yeah, I love that, Lisa. And I mean, there are times I'm still running on the go, but I will literally like look at my glass of water and say, for even just a second, like, thank you for nourishing me, giving me energy, fueling my brain, before I drink it. Or if I'm on the go and drinking a smoothie, I'll pause and just say, thank it, like, thank you for giving me this nourishment that I need before this work meeting or this activity with my kids. And yeah. So sometimes it's hard to avoid the multitasking, but even as you said, Lisa, just a simple pause.
But I think, right, just the pause in and of itself, just even, you take 5 seconds and put your hand on your heart, and you can feel immediately the shift in the energy. And so I think that, right, just 5 seconds even is a huge difference. Does anybody else have any questions? Comments?
Who's the author?
Oh,
Mark David.
Oh, David. Okay.
Yeah. And the Mark is with a C.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay.
So for those who don't receive my newsletter, I put out a monthly, sometimes twice a month newsletter, depending on the fullness of my days and my life and carving out the time to write. If you're interested in receiving my newsletter, you can always message me or I just need your email. You can go to my website and sign up for it. I talk about lots of different things from parenting, stress management. I often give journal prompts. It is also a great way to know about the upcoming Cup of Gratitude series. So, like, I don't have my person for August yet. I have people in mind. I don't think I'll run into any of them. So unless I go somewhere far. So
A serendipitous moment is going to flow in.
Right.
it will. Yes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of let people know that I do have a newsletter. This will be recorded. So if anybody knows of anyone who had intended on joining, this will be available. I don't think I actually will need to even edit this because I've mastered that. So it may not be up on YouTube by the end of the day, but it will be up, and I will share it on Facebook so that then people know that it's available. I'll probably share it in this event as well, so that then people can share it with friends if they want to, or revisit it for kind of if there were kind of any takeaway moments or pieces that you kind of want to listen to. Yeah. So, I greatly appreciate you guys being here. I think that I love kind of having this small community where people are able to kind of come together. Instead of a podcast, it's my kind of way of pulling women together. Doesn't have to be all women, pulling people together to kind of connect and talk gratitude and other things that kind of tie into it. So, so thank you, ladies. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm grateful for you doing this, Lisa.
Oh, well,
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yep.
Yeah, me too, Lisa. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
I really love that you do it this way, and the intimacy and the opportunity for others to share and chime in and ask questions too. So
Yeah, I love that, the connection. And what's really interesting is, so those who get my newsletter know, or really pay attention, word of the year is my thing. I love word of the year, and my word for the year was connection. And so that was picked in January in the height of COVID, no connection, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was at a really,
Yeah.
really hard
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
And so when this kind of came to me, I was like, oh, that's what connection was about, right? Like it really just fit ever so perfectly into kind of my word for the year, and kind of the direction that I wanted to go, as well as a handful of other things. But this ability to connect and bring women, people together is, I love it. So love being able to share other people's stories and their path. And I thank you, Annie.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah.
You're such a delight to chat with.
Thanks.
So
Thank you. I know, I feel like we could flow all night. This is great. I love it.
Yeah.
And just a note about your newsletters, and to anyone who doesn't already receive Lisa's newsletters, I strongly recommend it, because Lisa, I swear you're in my brain. Like what you write, I'm like, oh, I so needed to hear this right now. It's like the timing. So you definitely have, there's an intuitiveness about you, and your authentic way of writing and sharing is a gift. So yes, I enjoy your newsletters very much.
oh, thank you, Annie. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I do it whenever it gets to the end of the month, and I'm like, oh, I haven't done one. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna write
I'm
about
like that.
And then I just kind of sit, and whatever comes to me, and I'm like, okay, go with it,
Yeah.
and so I thank you.
Mhm.
So anyways, with that, I think we can wrap things up. Thank you, ladies, and have a lovely evening. I think it stopped raining.
It stopped raining.
I
Yeah.
Thank you,
Yeah.
ladies.
We just
Thanks,
had
Jana,
some-
for coming.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank
Stop
you.
recording.
Mhm.